So the title for today's chapter is Karma. Karma is an intriguing topic in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord actually doesn't spend too much time on karma as a topic. Although for you and me, it's a very important topic. We just discussed that if we violate the rules or the regulations, that there should be consequences. And similarly, if we are following the rules and regulations, there should be rewards for it. So it's interesting to note that there are a few shlokas on karma in chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Jnana Sannyasa Karma Yoga. Chapter 4 is, Jnana Sannyasa Karma Yoga. It's called Transcendental Knowledge. And in this particular chapter, the Lord talks about karma as a concept. And he also says it's actually quite difficult to understand karma and how it operates. And he just leaves it at that. He just says karma is a difficult thing for anybody to understand. He does not explain why it's difficult to understand. So I thought, let's compare what Google has to say about what is karma and what Lord Krishna has to say about karma. How does Lord Krishna define karma? As we were discussing yesterday, anytime we touch a topic on the spiritual platform, we must keep going back to the scriptures. We cannot make up things on our own, or we cannot interpret things on our own. That's a very dangerous territory we are treading into if we choose to follow that particular path of thinking I have free will, I can sit and do what I want as long as I don't harm anybody. Then you have to figure out, how do you define harm? Harming self is also harm. Actually, today I was reading the Ishopanishad, and 1, 2, 3, the fourth mantra in Ishopanishad. The Ishopanishad has 18 mantras, invocation plus 18 mantras. All of you will know the invocation. The invocation goes like this: Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So that's the invocation. So Ishopanishad begins with an invocation. In mantra 4 of the Ishopanishad, the word Atmaha is used. Literally, that means committing suicide. But we are not talking about suicide of the body. We're talking the suicide of one's consciousness. So mantra 4 in the Ishopanishad warns us, those who do not understand how the laws operate, those who do not understand what the role of the Supreme Lord is, are committing Atmaha. So sometimes we think if we have free will, we can do what we want, as long as it's not bringing harm to others. But the Ishopanishad defines harm to include self-harm. And again, I will emphasize, this is not about physical harm. Yes, there is physical harm in terms of the fact that you have to acquire a different body for violating the laws. but you're also harming your consciousness. So this concept of free will is interesting. This concept of independence is also interesting. So let's read, what does Google say? I don't know who put out these little posters on Google, but anyway, thanks to them, I was able to select a few. So what is karma? So here, this particular poster says fear-based and love-based. Fear-based means you reap what you sow. You better be careful about your actions. Karma is the consequences, both good and bad, that are brought to you based on your actions, good and bad. You are judged for your actions. Now, if you want to look at the same concept of karma, but with a positive lens, which they have called love-based, karma is a gift that brings you lessons for your soul's personal growth and will continue to bring these lessons back around until you have learned them. A polite way of saying, you're going to keep experiencing difficulties until you've learned your lesson. But they call it love-based. Then the poster in the middle says, how people treat you is their karma. How you react to how they are treating you is your karma. Then one very harsh definition of karma. Karma has no problem getting back in touch with you when need be, which means you may have done something some time ago. You may not have suffered the consequences immediately, but when it is necessary for you to learn that lesson, it will come back to you. So don't think, I have done something, oh, I have escaped. It's going to come back to you sometime in the future. And future doesn't necessarily mean in this life. It could be in your future life. Another definition of karma is what you put out will come back to you in unexpected ways. Give only what you don't mind getting back to you, which means it's saying, if you don't want bad things to happen to you, then you need to be sharp enough, intelligent enough to make sure you only put out those actions that are good for you and good for society. And the one at the bottom says, what is this karma cleanse? Yeah. We have to be grateful. We have to act with love. We shouldn't have ulterior motives to take advantage of others. We have to watch our attitude. And most importantly, we have to forgive. Forgive whom? Forgive those who have done wrong to us. Our Shastras say, let us say somebody has caused you great harm. And it has upset you, and you're carrying that hurt with you for many, many years. And you've decided you cannot forgive them for what they've done to you. The consequence of not forgiving is that you have to take birth again. Let's say in this life, you choose not to take revenge for whatever harm that other person has caused you, because you don't want to go down that path. But at the same time, you have not forgiven them. You have to take birth again until you either extract your revenge or you learn to forgive them. So which means in this life, if we don't learn to forgive those who have harmed us, you will be forced to take birth and associate with that person again and again and again in as many lifetimes as it takes until you learn to either forgive or take revenge. These are the only two choices that we have. We can act positively or we can act negatively. So the concept of forgiveness is so important in our Shastra. We must let go of old hurts and move on with our life. Whatever they have done, let it impact them. So Krishna talks about karma in chapter 4. So I'm going to recite the shlokas and read the translation. So in 4.16, Krishna says, Kim karma kima karmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajñatva mokshase shubhat. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. The first thing Krishna is telling Arjuna is, even the most intelligent, who are the intelligent? The Brahmanas. Who are the Brahmanas? They understand the Shastras because their only job is to study the Shastras. So Krishna says, this karma, what is action, what is inaction? It confuses even the most intelligent of people in society. So can you imagine for ordinary people like you and me how complicated this topic would be? But then Krishna says, yes, I've told you it is complicated. I've told you it's going to bewilder the most intelligent people. But I myself will explain to you what is action. Listen carefully, Arjuna. I'm going to explain karma very briefly to you so that you can be liberated from misfortune. Because we have a tendency where we cannot trust ourselves to do the right thing. That's why we all agreed in the beginning of the class, we do need rules and regulations. So that we don't inflict harm on ourselves, we don't inflict harm on others and on society. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, I will tell you the trick how to avoid karmic reactions. Listen carefully. But after listening, one has to follow the instructions. Following the instructions means you have to practice. So whatever Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, we have to actually apply it in our life. There's no point in reading and not applying. And learning how to apply those instructions comes from the spiritual master or guru. So in the next shloka, Krishna says, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gatihi. He is expanding on what he has already said in shloka 16. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So in this shloka 17, Krishna has defined karma broadly to include three things. What we should do, what we shouldn't do, and what is it that is considered inaction. So we'll come to that shortly. So Krishna is himself telling Arjuna the topic of karma and how it works is not easy to understand. But in today's class, we're simply going to follow what Krishna states, and hopefully at the end of the class, each of you can make a decision on whether you're ready to follow Krishna's instruction. He is going to give you the solution on how you can avoid karma. So I hope you are all listening carefully. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, listen carefully, because he's the teacher and Arjuna is in the position of a student. So Krishna is constantly reminding Arjuna, I'm giving you some very important information. Listen carefully. Listen to my instructions carefully. Absorb it. Understand it. Apply it. Because I am doing this for your benefit. Okay, so now we know that karma is not an easy topic to understand. But by the end of today's class, the instructions will be very simple for us to follow. Then we don't have to worry about karma anymore. We can just go on with our life and do the right thing. So one of the intriguing things for us in life is as we look all around us, we come across inequalities. Inequalities are a fact of life. It's not going to change. Even though we may want it to change, it's not going to change. So, but then why does inequality exist? Is it fair? You know, what if I violate the law, but I escape the punishment? Is that fair? What if I've violated the law and I've been caught violating the law and I've been punished, but I know that somebody else violated the law, did not get caught and therefore did not get punished? I will protest saying, why you have not put that person in jail? Or why have you not fined that person? Why are you only fining me? I saw him violate the law. The difference between human law and the Lord's law. When we say law, that means there has to be a lawmaker. It's just pretty logical. If we say rules and regulations, that means somebody has created those rules and regulations. It just didn't pop out of thin air. So in every society, there are governments and other local institutions and bodies that come up with their own rules and regulations to help society function smoothly. Similarly, the Supreme Lord Krishna, as the ultimate lawmaker, has created a set of laws for our own good. If we follow them, we will avoid disaster. We will avoid negative consequences. So we all agreed that we should follow laws. It's there for our good. If we are ready to follow the laws of the land, should we not follow the laws of the Lord? We worry about the law of the land because the consequences could be immediate. For example, if you run a red light and the police has caught you, you get fined. The consequences is felt immediately. What about the laws of the Lord? How do consequences work there? Do we face the consequences immediately, or what is that structure that the Lord has set up? If we accidentally or willfully violate his law, how does he treat us? Should we not know this? And once we find out, should we not be intelligent enough to follow it? Just like we're following the laws of the land here, we should also learn to follow the laws of the Lord. So we said there is inequality in life. But how do we explain this inequality? I don't know. Was Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani and the Ambanis, they were born rich and they're just becoming richer and richer and richer and richer and richer? Somebody is born poor and may stay poor the rest of their lives. Somebody is born poor and then becomes wildly rich. Somebody is born rich and becomes a pauper. Somebody is born beautiful. Somebody does not have that same kind of beauty. Somebody is born with extreme talent, extreme intelligence. Some people are born with a lack of intelligence. Why is it that we all have different starting points? Is this fair? So the next question is, if we all have different starting points, that means God must be partial. He's treating some people nicely and some people not so nicely. So how do we explain this? How do we explain inequality in life? Because it's there all around us. Some people work really hard and still don't get the results that they're seeking. And some people are lazy, but they are wildly lucky to get only good things in life. So when we see this kind of equality, it upsets, inequality rather, in life, especially if we are suffering and we see other people who are doing nonsense and don't seem to be suffering, it really upsets us. So I want you to answer the question in the chat. Is God partial? What are your thoughts on this question? Is God partial? If he isn't, why are there inequalities? If he is, why is he partial? So the answers, it's our actions only, it's our karma. So everybody is saying karma. So none of y'all have ever gone in front of the Lord and prayed and asked him, why are you doing this to me? Why are you making me suffer so much? None of you have asked that question. What about when things go right? Well, let's say you have been extremely lucky. Do you ask the Lord, why are you giving me so many good things? Very nice answer. Madhu says, I have asked, but that is out of ignorance. Okay, Satya Devi says, I don't question God. Lord is not partial, it's all our karma. But what is karma then? So we're going to use a cricket analogy to understand this concept a little bit. There are words in English that have many meanings. A single word can have many meanings. For example, the word run, R-U-N, has more than 10 meanings depending on how that particular word is used in a particular sentence. The word karma has 4 different meanings. And we're going to understand it today. Actually, it's very easy to understand. Nothing complicated at all. But when the Lord uses the word karma in the Bhagavad Gita, we need to understand it in the context of the sentence that the Lord is using it in. So let's look at the 4 definitions or meanings of karma. The 2 most accepted definitions of karma is any activity that we perform with the body, mind, and intelligence. So which means any and all human activity is called karma. Karma means actions. Another definition of karma is, as one of the posters said, as you sow, so shall you reap, which means whatever actions you put out, there is going to be a reaction to that. It could be good, it could be bad based on what you've put out. So that's the second definition of karma. First definition of karma is any activities that we do. Human being cannot be without activity. So activities are being done every second, every minute, every day until we die. So all of that sum total of our actions is karma. The reactions we get for our actions is also called karma. The entire system of action and reaction, that is also called karma. Good reactions are also called karma. So actions, reactions, good actions, and the entire system of action and reaction, that literal cycle of how it operates, this is called karma. So these are the various meanings of the word karma. So Lord Krishna defines karma. We read that particular shloka 4.17 a couple of slides ago. Krishna uses the words karma, vikarma, and akarma. So there are three different categories of karma. Krishna defines karma as anybody who follows the directions and the instructions in the scriptures. If you strictly follow it and you do not violate the scriptures, that activity is called punya. The result is positive, pious. Anybody who violates the scriptures, the result for them is papa. That is called vikarma. So karma here means positive, vikarma here means negative. Punya and papa. Then finally, what is akarma? For which one does not suffer any reaction. Oh, this is an interesting concept. What can one do so that we don't suffer any reaction? Well, that specific word is called sukriti. So Krishna's advice to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he advises Arjuna to perform only sukriti, to not engage in punya or papa. Because as long as you engage in punya and or papa, you have to take birth again. If you do good, you have to reap the rewards. If you do bad, you have to suffer the consequences, which means for both of which there is a reaction. If you've done so much good, you will take birth again, maybe in a rich family. Maybe you will go to the upper planetary systems. Maybe you will become a devata. Maybe you will go live with Lord Brahma in the Satyaloka planet. You've done so much good, so much pious activities you've accumulated. The Lord will keep promoting you. Upper planet, upper planet, upper planet. But we just discussed in the beginning of the class, even in upper planet, there is birth and death. Cannot be avoided. So the reverse is that if you are only doing impious deeds, then you will go to the lower planetary systems, or worse, you will go to lower species of life. So that is Krishna's warning to Arjuna. Krishna tells Arjuna, if you do only good deeds, you'll go to the heavenly planets, enjoy yourself. Once your credit balance is zero, you'll come back here, start all over again. So don't think going to the heavenly planets is a great thing. It's just that if you go to the heavenly planets, you will have a longer life. You will enjoy far more than what you're enjoying here in this Martya Loka. Vice versa. If you only do bad deeds and nothing but bad deeds, there are only two consequences of that. You will go to the lower planetary systems, which are completely under the modes of tamogun, or you will have to give up this human body and move into lower species of life. So there is no guarantee for us that we will get a human life in the next life, except if you do Sukriti. So if we focus our attention on spiritual activities, the Lord says there is no more punya and papa for you. That balance comes down to 0, 0. So if you can think about credit and debit, both of that has to be 0 in order for you to stop this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. These are Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, not something that we are making up here in ISKCON. Krishna is saying spiritual activities is so important for you. You are a human being. You've been given the highest form of consciousness and the highest form of intelligence so that you can use it to get out of the cycle of birth and death. If you are intelligent, as somebody very rightly said, the reason we need rules and regulations is that we are humans. If we didn't follow rules and regulations, we should consider ourselves to be animals. So a cat can run a red light and the cop is not going to give a ticket to the cat. That law applies to the human being. So similarly, all the laws that the Lord has created in this universe, especially to do with papa and punya, applies only to human beings. So everything that happens to us may not be good, or at least we may interpret it as that way. But ultimately, everything that happens to us is for our spiritual good. The Lord is telling us, wake up. Wake up. You're occupying a human body. You need to conduct yourself like a human being. So sometimes the Lord gives you difficult times, of course, based on your past karma. He is impartial, to awaken your desire to search for the truth. And that happens through the process called spiritual evolution. So the important message for us in this slide is Krishna's instruction is we should be performing a karma or inaction. But Arjuna misunderstands purportedly what Krishna's instructions are. We discussed yesterday that Arjuna did not want to fight because he did not want to kill his own family, his teacher, his grandfather, and Arjuna gives 5 reasons as to why he should not fight. One of those reasons that he gives is, my dear Lord, you are asking me to kill. After killing, who will take on the sin of all that killing? I have to take that sin. I'm not ready to take that sin, Arjuna says. He says, sin will befall us, Krishna, he says. That's in the first chapter. He's begging the Lord, please don't ask me to fight. So many problems that's going to come out of this fight. And one of the biggest problem is I have to accept the sin of killing my own fathers, my teachers, my relatives, my brothers, my cousins. How can you expect me to do this? That's Arjuna's question. So to clarify that question, actually, Arjuna gives 5 reasons why he should not fight. 4 in chapter 1 and 1 in chapter 2. The rest of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord to address these 5 reasons that Arjuna gives why he should not fight. So the entire Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord to refute the excuses given by Arjuna as to why he should not fight. Now, on the surface of it, the excuses or the reasons that Arjuna gives seem to be quite legitimate. If you and I here, we will come to that slide where we're going to see what are the reasons that Arjuna states as to why he should not fight. If you and I look at those reasons and read the Bhagavad Gita, we will actually agree with Arjuna. You will not find any reasons being given by Arjuna that seems to be unreasonable. But the Lord says, no. You are Arjuna. I mean, the Lord criticizes Arjuna in the 2nd chapter before he starts speaking to Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord criticizes Arjuna and saying, what you're speaking like a great Brahmana, you don't know basic things. You are pretending to be very learned and knowledgeable, but actually you're not. So Krishna scolds Arjuna. He says, don't talk nonsense. So the Lord is a little harsh with Arjuna, criticizing him. So what was Arjuna's calculation? Arjuna thought, if I fight, I will commit sins. If I fight, I will be the cause of so many widows. If I fight, these widows will become polluted because unscrupulous men will take advantage of them. If I fight, these women will produce children out of wedlock, and the whole population will get spoiled because you will have children born out of wedlock. These are reasons that Arjuna gives. And therefore he says, I don't want to be entangled in the cycle of karma. Best I leave the battlefield. Let them have the kingdom if they want. So Arjuna's incorrect calculation here was that if I fight, I'm going to incur sin. If I don't fight, there is no sin for me. And Krishna says, no, 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 no. That is not how karma works. Krishna tells Arjuna, if you don't fight, you are committing a greater sin than fighting. You will have to suffer the consequences of not acting when you are required to act. So don't practice escapism, Arjuna. Don't try to escape your responsibilities, because escaping your responsibilities doesn't mean you will not suffer the consequences of that. So Krishna reorients Arjuna's consciousness to think differently about this scenario. Running away from the battlefield is not the solution. If you think running away is going to save you, Krishna tells Arjuna, you're wrong. You have to fight because that's your duty. That's your dharma. So I mentioned earlier, in the Bhagavad Gita, there are not many shlokas about karma. Most of the shlokas are about dharma. So it's very clear that Krishna is very keen on telling you and me that we should simply follow our duties and responsibilities. That is our most important function as a human being. Yeah. So in the same chapter, Krishna talks about karma yoga. Actually, he begins in chapter 3 and continues in chapter 5. Karma yoga. So I'll just quickly read. Karma yoga is essentially acting or doing one's duties in life as per his or her dharma or duty without concern of results. So this is that very famous shloka that we discussed yesterday. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana Ma karma palaheturvu, ma te sangostva karmani. So that's Krishna's first instruction. He's telling Arjuna, you do your duty, you do not worry about who you are going to kill, whether they are going to be killed or you are going to be killed, that is not in your hands. Your duty is to perform your duty. Your duty is to protect Dharma. Arjuna's conflict was between, should I protect my family or should I protect the nation? Kula Dharma or Kshatriya Dharma, which one should he select? Krishna tells him, Kshatriya Dharma. So one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. These statements on Karma Yoga are directly from the Bhagavad Gita. So this is not from Google. This is a summary of Lord Krishna's instructions to Arjuna, where Krishna uses the analogy of the lotus leaf that is untouched by water. So the second bullet is Naishkarmya karma, which means doing your duty simply because that is your duty to perform, and being detached from the results, not worrying about the results and not even caring for the results. Work is to be performed for its own sake, not for its outcomes. The one who performs an action with controlled mind and wisdom, Krishna says, is wise. So we all know that we have to work. The reason we have to work is we have to maintain social order. We discuss this. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of society as well. Not only that, Krishna says we have to work to maintain cosmic order. What does this mean? Cosmic order means there is an interdependency between the devatas and us. If we perform yajnas for them, they get satisfied and they send us rain, sunshine, moonshine, nice weather, nice climate. So if we don't worship the devatas, we will suffer here. So which means we also need to perform our duties as per the scriptures to keep the devatas pleased and happy, so that they send you the things that is necessary for you to live a comfortable life. Then Krishna says in chapter 3 that we have to work to set an example for others. So he's telling Arjuna, you're in a position of leadership. Whole society is going to observe you. If you make one misstep, everybody else will say, the king has done this, so even I can do it. So if the king has violated the law, why can't I violate? So Krishna is instilling in Arjuna this concept of you are in a responsible position. So you need to be well educated and intelligent. Make your decisions based on Shastra and do your activities in such a way that it does not disturb society. You have to set a good example for others. And in that context, Lord Krishna gives an example of Sita Devi's father, Janaka Maharaj, in chapter 3. And he gives himself as an example also in that same shloka. He says, follow in the footsteps of great acharyas. And one such Mahajan is Janaka Maharaj. Lastly, we all have to work to grow spiritually. Our work is not only for economic gains. We have to work beyond economic gains. There's something larger in life that we have to focus on. So these are the 4 reasons why we have to work: to maintain social and individual order, to maintain cosmic order, to set an example for others, and to work so that we have an opportunity to grow spiritually. So I'm going to come to a cricket analogy. So we're going to answer the question, why is there inequality? Is the Lord partial? So let us say you don't know anything about the game of cricket, but you want to attend the game. and you step into a stadium, you've purchased the tickets and you stepped into a stadium, and two teams are playing a cricket match, and you see a scoreboard. The scoreboard says India, let's say 100 runs, Australia 0. Remember, you do not know anything about cricket. So we are going to use that cricket analogy to understand how karma works and why only karma is the acceptable reason for inequalities. So one way to look at the scoreboard of 100 and 0 is to think it's just a chance. Somebody just put 100 on India and 0 in Australia. It means it's a fluke, which means if sufferings happen to us or good things happen to us, we need to think that everything is a fluke. There's no reason, there is no God. We just have to deal with whatever we have to deal with. There is no logic behind this at all. But because we are rational beings and because we are logical, we cannot accept this reason that if good things happen to somebody else, it's a fluke. If bad things happen to me, that's also a fluke. That doesn't appeal to our sense of justice. So we have to reject that the scoreboard of 100 for India is just a fluke. The second way to look at the scoreboard is somebody who's that authority in that cricket stadium, maybe the umpire, simply decided we'll start the game by giving India 100 points or runs and Australia 0. Now that also doesn't make sense. Why would the umpire do something so randomly like this? So in Christianity, in Islam, and most other religions, actually all other religions except for Sanatana Dharma, when this question is asked, why do some people suffer and why do some people seem to have it easy? The answer that is given to people who follow these particular paths is that inequality exists. It's just the Lord's test for us. And there's no other explanation. The Lord is testing us. Okay? Why is the Lord testing one person more than the other? They don't have an answer to that question. So if we accept that reason, we also have to accept that the Lord is impartial. Or worse, he's capricious. Capricious means he just does whatever he wants. He decides, okay, today I will punish Ajay. Tomorrow I will reward Ambika. That's it. He doesn't have to explain anything. He doesn't have to give a reason. After all, he's the lawmaker. So even in our mind, we are unable to accept that the Lord is an impartial God, because at a minimum, his justice system should be better than ours on this planet Earth. Because if we accept that the Lord is partial, then we also have to accept that the Lord's law is not perfect. But the Lord's law is perfect. Krishna says, everything that happens is happening by my will, he says. Which means the only explanation left is karma. The scoreboard of 100 indicates that India played a day ahead. Therefore, their score was 100. So life is a test match. It's not a one-day cricket match. Which means we're all starting at different starting points because of what we have done in the past. But that does not mean we should feel discouraged. It simply means we need to elevate ourselves spiritually. So Krishna says there are two things that decide your next birth. Your desire and your past karma. That determines your destiny, which means your next life. So if we want to guarantee ourselves a human life, we have to perform Sukriti. Very simple. We shouldn't be worried about pious activities. We shouldn't be worried about sinful activities. We should simply focus on performing Sukriti. Everything else, the Lord changes the scoreboard to 0-0 on both sides. 0 on the Punya side, 0 on the Papa side, until you're ready to go back. Go back to the spiritual world from which you came. So really, the only logical explanation here is action and reaction. So I just have a couple more slides and we'll finish up. So the obvious question some of us may ask is, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to good people? So there are 3 ways to understand this. There is something called the immediate cause. And a simple example is that if I put my hand in the fire, there is an immediate reaction. So sometimes there is instant karma. If you slap somebody, it's quite likely that they will slap you back, or worse. Then there is what is called your remote cause or a quick karma, let's put it that way. If you eat something that has upset your stomach, you may not experience that immediately. It may take 24 hours to manifest itself. But then if you drink alcohol on a daily basis, you're not going to experience it immediately. You're lucky if you die without cirrhosis. So you may experience the repercussions of having alcohol on a daily basis much later on in life. So that is delayed karma. Now, the thing that you and I can never understand is, what is the Lord's programming or logic that determines when do you experience karma quickly and when do you experience karma at a later point in time? Why is there a delay? Why is everything not instantaneous? So if we only focus on the immediate cause, then we're not accepting the fact that we could have done something in our previous life that is causing us to suffer now. So we need to focus on the remote cause and we need to focus on the ultimate cause. Remote cause is what you've done in the past. But the ultimate cause of all karmic reactions is the fact that we're disconnected from the Supreme Lord. That is why Krishna advises us to do Sukriti. Sukriti means spiritual activities to please Him. So if you're disconnected from the Lord, you are going to experience more karma in your life. In the sense, you will trap yourself over and over and over again, which means you'll make the same mistakes again and again. If you run the traffic signal once, you're likely to do it again and again and again, because pretty soon it'll become a habit. So the only thing you and I need to worry about is, what is the ultimate cause for our karma? Why have we taken birth at all? It's because we've been disconnected from the Supreme Lord. Hence, Krishna's advice to Arjuna is, perform Sukriti. Do not accumulate punya, and of course, nobody wants to accumulate papa. So, the question we should be asking is not why do bad things happen to good people, but what do good people do when bad things happen to them? How do they deal with it? Again, this is coming from the scripture, connected to the earlier slide, the remote cause, the immediate cause, and the ultimate cause. Well, there are only 3 options for us. If we're having difficulties, we can learn to tolerate. And Krishna tells Arjuna, good things will come, bad things will come. Winter will come, summer will come. Happiness will come, distress will come. Krishna tells Arjuna, it's a cycle. You just have to tolerate. Don't become agitated because good things happen, you don't get agitated. But when bad things come, you are terribly agitated. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, learn to tolerate. The word in Sanskrit is titikshava. If you can't tolerate it, you can try to mitigate it. Mitigate it means try to make it better, not by taking revenge. That's not what Krishna means. And finally, he says emigrate. Emigrate means you can't run away. That's not emigration. Emigration means you're moving to another country. So Krishna is not talking about a physical emigration here. He's talking about the emigration of the consciousness. Elevate yourself to a higher platform. Get onto the spiritual platform. Nothing will worry you. Nothing will bother you. So this is the last slide. Krishna's advice to Arjuna is be God conscious. Be Krishna conscious. Do not be karma conscious. Because if you're karma conscious, you will trap yourself. So we should work on behalf of and for Krishna than to work for ourselves. Again, this is Krishna's instruction to Arjuna. He tells Arjuna, whatever you do it to please me, because if you do anything to please me, that is Sukriti. If you do as per my instructions, there is no negative consequences for you. So why are you worried about killing the people on the battlefield? I am telling you to fight. Go ahead and fight. So the very interesting analogy of a soldier. If a soldier kills people on the battlefield, the government rewards him with some medal of honor because he is killing on behalf of the government and for the government. Whereas if that same soldier if he were to murder his neighbor because he got into that argument with the neighbor, that same government that rewarded him for his activities on the battlefield will throw him in jail for killing his neighbor. The same analogy you can understand in the context of what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Follow my instructions. If you follow my instructions, you will always be under my protection. You need not worry. But if you violate my instruction, immediate consequences or remote consequences. So Krishna is throughout the Bhagavad Gita telling Arjuna, you have to learn to live without entangling yourself in karmic activities. So essentially, what should our mood be? Instead of thinking, how can I avoid karma? How can I avoid karma? How can I avoid karma? Our thought process should be, how can I serve Krishna? By serving Krishna, I automatically avoid karma. So we need to focus on actions and not on reactions. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita focuses so much on dharma and not on karma. Karma is just a byproduct of your actions. Focus on your dharma and then you can avoid karma. And what is our dharma? Krishna has given a clear instruction. Our dharma is to worship the Lord and to serve him. Do your duty, don't focus on destiny. When results come, Krishna says, accept it. Do not agonize if you're not getting the results that you wanted. Have faith in me, don't fear karma. If you have faith in me, you need not worry about anything at all because you are under my protection. So we'll stop here for the day.